Welcome to the Rotting Eyes podcast where we rot our eyes watching movies so you don't have to. This is episode 1, recorded July 2nd, 2020. I am Kat.
I'm Kaisa.
And I'm Megan.
And for today's episode, we watched Suspiria 1997 and Suspiria 2018.
You mean 1977?
Is that what did I say?
You said 97. But you know, it's okay.
It's
okay. We're going to move past it. We're all allowed to make mistakes. We're human.
This is the trend now, is I can't get through the intro.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
We'll figure it out one day.
No.
Yes.
No.
Come on, let's be a little optimistic here, ladies.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So, Suspiria. It's basically about Susie Banyan, who goes to ballet school. And it turns out this ballet school is run by witches. And this is in Germany, of course, because it has to be Europe. We all know that. That's where all the witchy stuff happens.
There are no witches anywhere else.
No.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
The witches exist only in Europe and in Salem, as far as I'm aware. I haven't heard of any other kind of witches. Yeah.
Salem's just part of Europe.
Yeah, basically. I've been there, and I can say it is basically Europe.
All right.
Yeah. Let's get started.
I guess we can
I
go
hated
over...
these movies. I want to get that right out of the way.
All right. Okay. First of all,
my heart in two.
right off the bat, we're going to say Kat did not like these movies. We kind of suspected this. She texted us last night watching it. She was like, I have a lot to say.
No, I just said you wouldn't like what I would say.
Oh, yeah, well, okay. Yeah, that. Okay, so we're just going to say right off the bat, Kat did not like these movies. But I will say that Kaisa and I have seen at least... Kaisa has seen the original, and you are a fan of the original, correct?
I've seen the original many times.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite horror movies.
Okay.
I feel differently about the remake.
Okay, so that's Kaisa's background with the movies. Mine is that I've seen both once, and I am a fan of both of them. But we can get into... So I guess we'll just have a bunch of different... we have a bunch of different opinions about this movie, and it's, I guess... reasonable because the remake is very, very polarizing. So I think this will be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, there's a lot of opinions about the remake.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But Kat, you said you don't like the original either, right?
No, but I will say, in comparing the two, first one was way better.
Okay.
First one was so much better.
All right, Can you kind of go over why you didn't like either of them? Is there I know because there was something that you mentioned when we were talking last night that you kind of you weren't really into the gore. There's a lot of gore in the movie, particularly in the second one for those who haven't seen it. And there's a lot of body horror and things like that. So I kind of want to go over why you specifically weren't into these movies.
So the first one, I didn't hate the first one.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily dislike it. I was kind of neutral on it.
Okay.
For the majority of the movie, I was like, how this feels like a 5-hour movie. Like it was so
okay.
long.
I can imagine
like
how
an
the
hour and a
second one must
half,
have been.
right?
I can imagine how the second one must have been then, because the first movie is an hour and a half. Yeah, the second one is 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So the first movie, it took until the very end to actually capture my attention.
Okay.
For most of the movie, I was just sitting there thinking about how long I had left in the movie.
Wow. All right.
The end of the movie, I liked.
Okay.
Well, liked is a strong word.
Okay.
I was okay.
You were like,
with.
this is not terrible. Okay.
It was not boring.
All right. Interesting.
Let's say that.
Okay.
And I have one other thing to say about that, but I'll leave it for now.
All right. Okay.
The newer one, the remake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I skipped a large portion of that movie.
Okay, but to be fair though, we told you because you were already saying that you kind of had issues with kind of the gore of it, so we were kind of telling you already. We were like, don't watch this scene, because the both of us had already seen it. So just because apparently we didn't talk about what the type of movies that maybe we shouldn't be like. There are some like issues that some of us might have watching certain movies.
Well,
so,
and I didn't even know that this was going to be an issue. Like even if I had known going in, I didn't know that it would be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, interesting.
I found out watching the movie
while you were
that it was going to
watching
be an issue.
Yeah, I remember like texting you, be like, "Oh, do not watch this scene. You do not want to see this."
Yeah, so I think I skipped about an hour of the second movie in total.
Interesting. Okay, all right.
You weren't missing much, to be honest with you.
I think
I
that
didn't
you were.
see much.
All right, this is what. Okay, this is. We're gonna get this out of the way. Kaisa, did you like the second movie? Did you like the remake?
You know what? I have to say that hate feels like a really strong kind of word for it.
It is.
But
right.
I didn't.
You didn't
enjoy
it. Okay.
Particularly. There were things about it that I did like Tilda Swinton is amazing and I love her in everything that she does.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's that, but I mean, we'll get into the details later as things that I specifically didn't like about the movie. But
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna get that all the. Okay. So we're gonna say this first, that Kaisa and Kat did not enjoy the second movie. I personally love the remake of Suspiria. I personally like it more than the original. But I know that Kaisa, you had kind of a history with with the original. I know you've seen it multiple times. I personally, when I first saw both of them, I saw them both around the same time. So I saw the original. And then I saw the remake kind of a few months apart. But I was watching them because the new one was coming out. So I enjoyed both of them, but I personally like the remake more. But we can go into details about that later. So we're just going to get that. And so that whoever's listening to this kind of knows where we stand with both movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can know to discard one of our opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also going to be major spoilers, as with every episode going forward. I don't think we're going to shy away from anything.
Should maybe put that in the intro next
yeah,
time.
So
yeah,
just for any listeners who's watching this or listening to this on Podbean, if you have not seen these movies, if you're interested in seeing it or anything like that, I would definitely say watch it first and then come back and watch it. But if you've already seen it or you just don't really care much for spoilers, then I guess keep on listening. I hope you enjoy our discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, I took a lot of notes on this movie, by the way, guys. I don't know if we'll get through all of it, but...
Yeah, so in my notebook, which I will hold up to the camera now...
Okay.
I got 2.5 pages worth of notes for the remake, and I got exactly 4 notes.
For the original, I mean, because you've seen it, so
yes,
that makes sense.
I have seen the original so many times that in all honesty, I probably didn't even have to rewatch it for this podcast,
right?
Because the notes that I took on the original are like things that I could just come up with without even watching it,
right?
Yeah, I literally wrote, and I will read out these notes to you. Goblin score. Technicolor, dubbed voices, and dumbass bows on the front of her ankles.
Wait, what?
Dumbass bows on the front of her ankles. Because in the dancing scenes, there's only a couple of them.
Right.
You can tell that what's her name, Jessica Harper,
the main
doesn't
character
know how to tie point shoes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because she has these bows on the front of her ankles.
Okay, interesting.
So, that bothered me.
So she's tied them like sneakers.
Essentially.
So when did you first see this movie?
Like high school,
okay.
I think. Well, for a long time I wasn't really into horror.
Yeah.
It took me until high school to really get into horror. So Suspiria was among the first horror movies that I went through during that period that I watched. Yeah, it was like Suspiria and Carrie were like the first two that I watched. Because it's a classic.
It is a classic, yeah. It is a classic, but I also feel like there's a lot of people who don't know this movie just because I think it's not, because, like, for background, it's not, technically, it's not an American movie, is it? Like, because the director is Italian.
No,
and-
it's Italian, yeah.
Yeah, it's an Italian movie, even though the main character is American and she plays an American character. The
Yes.
movie itself is Italian.
Yeah. This was very common in Italian giallo cinema.
Yeah,
was
exactly.
To have
Yeah.
an American.
Right. And I also want to say that the remake is also directed by an Italian director. So,
Yeah.
just to put that out there. So it's not like
Yeah.
super, I would say it's definitely not as well known as something like Carrie or something, you know, as like Halloween,
Yeah.
where it kind of falls into
Yeah.
similar kind of tropes, I guess, or like there's like similar eras. But it's not as well known, but it's still, I
Yeah.
mean, it's still
Well,
very
you know
well-known.
what grabbed my
horror movie.
attention towards Suspiria was it was a dance movie.
Right, yeah.
course.
And I
Of course.
did ballet for a very long time.
Yeah. Right.
So, you know, when I was like, oh, there's a horror movie about ballet, let me watch that because, you know, that should interest me. That's kind of what attracted me towards it.
So speaking of the dancing, I know that because like in the original, there's not that much dancing, even though it does take place in a ballet like a dance academy. How did you feel about the dancing in the second film? Because I know there's a lot more. There was a lot more choreography in the second film. There's a lot more dancing, and there's a lot more kind of horror aspects incorporated in the dancing. How did you feel about that personally, as somebody who was a dancer?
So I appreciated the amount of dance, and there was you know, just more of it. It played a more central role in the plot. I thought the filming of the dancing was absolutely horrendous. I hated it.
Interesting.
It made me want to go take Luca Guadagnino and slap him right across the face for his absolutely awful artistic decisions with filming the dancing.
This is what I'll say. I felt the opposite. I thought the dancing sequences were insane.
Hated it.
But like this is the thing though. I think it's different though because maybe you're seeing it from like a dancer point of view, but for me as like in terms of a film, in terms of a horror film, somebody who's making a dance horror film, like the dance sequences are really intense.
Okay, but look, here's the thing. You want dancing to be a central part of the plot and you're not even going to show it. Like, he barely showed any of the choreography. All he did was show close-ups of, like, elbows and faces and knees. And it's like, this isn't dancing. These are knees and elbows and faces. It's not allowing me to appreciate the choreography. It's not allowing me to see the choreography be witchcraft or whatever it is. It's just... it gets my fucking goat, people!
I think that's the artistic direction that he was going for. If you watch the movie, like that's just how the editing.
Bullshit.
No. This is what I'll say. The editing is very specific in this movie, where he does a lot of very quick, very sharp editing, where it's just a lot of like very quick close-ups of people. That's just how the editing is for the whole movie, and I think that's the tension that like a lot of the tension in the movie comes from the editing. So I feel like for me, I think like the dance sequences I really liked because it's not really about the dance. It's about the horror of it. You know what I mean? It's like using dance to kind of explain like show the horror of the film. So like
So why not show the dancing if the dancing is supposed to be horrific?
Because it's not really about that. It's about like it's more about like the editing of it. So like there's certain scenes where like he'll cut it.
All the editing is it's a callback to the giallo style, with the zoom-ins of the faces and the certain angles that he uses. It's not an artistic thing, it's just a callback.
But I think that the choice that he made in terms of the dancing, like especially like the end sequence, the last dance sequence in the movie, like you're not supposed to be like having one thing just like to watch the scene. Like that's not the point of that scene. That scene is meant to build up a lot of tension. So like the way that he edits it and the way like the sound design in that scene specifically, it's meant to become like it's meant to have this like very increasing like tension in the film. You know what I mean? That's the reason. That's like for me when I watched it, I understood like the reason why he edited it this way. I personally really like it, but for somebody who I guess like for somebody who's more into like who I guess like for you who is a dancer, I think you would appreciate more like seeing the actual choreography. But like I don't know, for like in terms of like an editing point of view for like a horror movie, I definitely understand why he edited it the way he did. I personally really loved it, but I guess obviously everybody's opinion is different, so that's what I'll say.
I didn't watch any of the dance scenes.
Oh, did you not watch the ending, the last dance sequence?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
I have to go find Damien Jallet somewhere and give him a hug for the disservice that Luca Guadagnino did to his choreography.
Wait. Oh, for the guy that the original dancer.
The choreographer who choreographed the movie. Well, there's an original piece. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. It's really unique and it's really cool to watch. It's hard to really describe the choreography very well. It's very contemporary and very modern, and it's something that I feel like can only be appreciated by actually like watching it happening.
Yeah. I think you sent. Is it like similar? Because I know you sent us a video about
It's essentially the same exact choreography.
Okay. This is what I'll say. I think there's different types. Like when you're watching something, I think when a director puts something in his movie, like every choice that a director makes is for a reason. So I feel like if he had just let us watch the act, like the whole performance, I don't think it would have had the same impact. You know what I mean?
I disagree. I think it would have had an actual impact. I was not impacted by this zooming in at all.
I don't know. I personally disagree. I don't think like just because like I think that the point was to build this tension in terms of like the plot. Okay, we'll get more into like the plot. I think we should get more into the plot soon, but I think it kind of had more to do with like the plot itself, like the way that he edited it. Than the actual like dance sequences, you know what I mean? Because like even in the original, the dancing, like there was almost no dancing in the original movie, and I don't think the dancing was technically supposed to be the point of like either of the films. It's just like a way to kind of show, you know, this kind of academy that they were in. But yeah, I think we should get more into like the plot of the movie.
Please do, because I missed I think half of it.
Okay, all right.
At least for the
second part.
remake, yeah.
Yeah, so this is what I'll say about the plot. I think that the second movie had much more of a plot than the original. There's not much of a plot going for the original movie. I think the original is more known for kind of its visual effects. Like I know a lot of people have described it as kind of like a fever dream. You know, like comparing it to like things like Alice in Wonderland or Snow White, where it's like just like it's meant to be like a movie that's meant to heighten your senses because the visuals are insane and then the music is very intense. So it's more about like the senses in the original movie. Like when you watch it, there's not really much of a plot, but the second movie there's much more plot going on. I don't know if you guys want to talk more about that.
With the original, it's a giallo film, which is yellow cinema. It's kind of a takeoff of like pulp novels, which had these yellow cover, yellow spine, and these novels are kind of pretty much the same today. You know, they haven't changed, where they're just kind of produced in very little time. There's not a lot of plot. They're just there to give you a cheap thrill. And so Italian giallo cinema is just a visual form of that. So I don't think it ever intended on having much of a plot.
A plot, right? Yeah.
It's just there to, you know, delight you. The thing that I appreciate that the remake took kind of those basic, you know, outline of a plot from the original and added to it and kind of expanded on it and beefed it up. But I think it also did too many things to try and differentiate itself.
Okay.
I think it came across as just trying too hard.
Interesting.
Whereas the original has just kind of the feeling of, you know, it's just there to
exist. Yeah, it just kind of happens. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely get that. I never really thought about it like that, just because, you know, I saw both of them kind of around the same time. But I remember seeing the first one and being like, what? Like, I just had no idea what was happening, just because there's, I I mean, it's so overloaded with in terms of its like its cinematography, its set design. Like it's just so there's so much going on in terms of like the way that it looks and the way that it sounds that there's not really much of a plot. Which is I guess you said there's no real need for it. The second one, I really, because I've always been somebody who really appreciates plot in movies. So I really like the plot in the second one. I like that they kind of expand. Yeah, like you said, like they expanded a lot on like certain things that they said in the original movie, like with this idea of like the mother, where it's like the idea of like there's the head of the coven, the mother, and then they kind of mention that in the original movie, and then they very much expand on it in the second one, where the second one there's a lot of there's kind of a lot of this internal struggle within like the coven. They start going into like internal struggles within the coven of who should be the leader and things like that. I really appreciated it. I really enjoyed the plot of the second movie, but it's really long, and it's something that again is like if you watch the original, you're a fan of the original, you might not necessarily think that it's necessary because it can be it's a very slow burn movie. It can be kind of long and convoluted for people. So
I think they just added too much to the new one. Like there's the whole stuff with Anka, which I was like, okay, you could have cut that out. It felt like just an excuse to put Jessica Harper in there and give her a
that is
cameo.
true. Yeah.
And then the stuff going back to Susie Banion's Amish background, I think that made me angry. Actually,
her Mennonite origins,
yeah, because it's like she has absolutely no formal dance training, and somehow she gets an audition with this actual company, which it's like it's absolutely absurd. But she just writes a letter and it's like, oh hi, I'm a little Amish girl who really wants to be a professional dancer, can I come audition for you? And somehow in this universe that gets her an audition.
They're witches.
This is what I'll Kaisa, this is what I'll say. Kaisa, this is what I'll say. This is spoilers for the movie. We're gonna get into spoilers now. At the end of the movie, it's revealed that
we've already been in spoilers, really.
We have, but like this is the big reveal of the second movie is that she is Mother Suspirium, that she is the head of the coven. That is why.
Really?
So because that's in the original movie, that's not part of the thing. She's just a normal girl. Not. You know what I mean? And in the second movie, it's revealed that she's the head of the coven.
It's not that she was already the head of the coven, it was that Mother Suspirium, who they were trying to resurrect to inhabit Madame Marcos's body, instead for whatever reason decided on Susie Banion's body, and then over time she had basically been calling Susie Banion to go to the school so that she could inhabit, so she was like pre-selected essentially. So I suppose Mother Suspirium did some magic and influenced Madame Blanc to accept her letter and get her to come so that she could inhabit this body.
They said that already, because she was like, they were like, because like Madame Blanc didn't even go to her audition originally. I thought it was Susie was supposed to be Mother Suspirium, like in the beginning, because like the mother, like her original mother said that she was like a curse, like when she brought her into the world, she was like a smear on the world or something like that. So
no, she said she was her great sin. So all I can imagine is that her mother like slept with a demon or something, or ran away with a cult at one point. Or
she was disappointed in her daughter for leaving the
for leaving the Mennonite community. Yeah. But the thing is, at the end, so my thing was that obviously like she was drawn to this place because of either she was already Mother Suspirium or Mother Suspirium drew her there, because like Madame Blanc, she originally didn't even go to her audition because she was like, she's just some girl, like why did we even invite her here? And then when she starts dancing, they realize like, oh, there's something special about her. So it's like something obviously was already, it's not like her like just some random girl, like there was obviously already something there working towards her favor, and like something there already channeling her. So it's not like just some random thing, like she just sent this thing and like was accepted here. Like in the original movie, that's how it was. But for the second movie, I think there's a lot more kind of influence in terms of like witchcraft or whatever. There's much more influence in the second film. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think that she was already Mother Suspirium to begin with. I think that makes everything that happens pointless.
No. Wait.
I think she had to have been called there Because if she was already Madame Suspirium, why didn't she just, like, I don't know, murder her entire
Because I think she was
Amish
testing.
life?
Oh.
Or I don't know. I think it completely takes away the point of her going to the school to discover this and kind of have Mother Suspirium inhabit her body. So
No,
yeah.
because I think that because Madame like Marcos, she wasn't trying to become Mother Suspirium, because when Susie asked her, she goes, "Who anointed you to become?" I think she was just trying to be the head of the coven. She wasn't trying to be one of the mothers, because the idea of the okay. So for people who haven't seen this,
Well, if she wasn't inhabiting her body, they were trying to raise Mother Suspirium. Whatever. That's what the big ritual was.
I thought the ritual, okay, maybe, I thought the ritual was that she was supposed to, like, so Marcos was trying to live in another body. She was trying to inhabit a younger body. That's what I thought was happening. Like, they were trying to extend her life.
It was like the Sanderson sisters in Hocus Pocus, where they kill off the youth so they can live longer. That's basically what was happening there.
I would have
I
rather
think, yeah.
watched Hocus Pocus.
Damn, you guys.
Well,
Alright.
we're watching Hocus Pocus in October.
We are
think,
watching
so.
that in October.
Yeah.
But my thing was, I thought, like, the way I saw it was that I thought Madame Marcos, she was trying to, because she was like this very old kind of woman, and they were trying to transfer her life into a younger body, and then she was trying to, like, claim to be the leader or whatever, but she wasn't trying to claim to be one of the three mothers, which, if you haven't seen the movie, there's kind of this background of kind of three mothers, or three leaders of the coven. So, and one of them is the Mother Suspiria. So in the end of the second movie, in the remake, she goes, Susie asks her, she goes, who anointed you to be the leader? And she goes, Mother Suspirium. And then Susie goes, I am she, like, I am Mother Suspirium. You know what I mean? So I don't think she was ever trying to be her. I think she was just calling her out to be a fake leader. You know what I mean? And because she preferred Madame Blanc over Madame Marcos. So, I don't know. Maybe she inhabited Susie's body, and maybe she was Susie. Maybe, like, it was Susie the whole time. I don't know, but I think, yeah.
Well, they kept talking about sacrificing a girl so they could return Madame Marcos to her strength throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. So, like, they were trying to transfer her life or her energy or whatever into a younger body, which is super common in a lot of films when it comes to, witchcraft,
They
older
were
and younger
giving Madame
women.
Marcos her life force. Didn't you see her body
Yeah,
with all the hands and, like, the faces sticking out?
exactly.
Those were all the life forms that she had sucked in. She wasn't transferring into a new body.
But she was still, she was trying to.
I'm trying to think of the reverse of suck, and that's blow, so.
Yeah. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say the whole sentence.
Man, this podcast is derailing.
Oh my god.
But to be
No,
fair,
we're
though,
on topic.
Yeah, we are. But I feel like, but we have to have, maybe this will make it more interesting, though, just because we have so many different opinions about this movie. But that's the thing about the second movie, though. It was super, super polarizing. It's meant to be a super polarizing thing. You know what I mean? So either people really liked it, really hated it, I think. But it's still an interesting discussion to have. Because, like, the second one, when you watch it, there's a lot of stuff happening that you don't really understand. And even the original, like, there's a lot of the intrigue comes with not really knowing what's going on.
I have a positive thing to say about the original.
Mm-hmm.
The use of color and lighting was excellent.
Yes.
Oh, for
yes.
sure, 100%.
I really loved that.
Yeah.
So the original was, like, one of the last movies to be released in Technicolor.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really used Technicolor just whole hog.
Yeah, exactly. Like, turned it up,
Took
dialed
full
it up.
advantage of it.
Exactly. Dialed it up as high as they could and was like, let's make this movie.
Yeah. It really adds to the mystery of the school, and like Megan was talking earlier about the fairy tale kind of feeling
the aspect
about
of
it. Like, if you compare the look of the school to when she's just arriving in Germany and you see the drabness outside.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
any scene that is not in the school is fairly normal looking. But when you're in the school, you get all the red and everything.
I made a note of that too, where, like, the scene when she's going to talk to that guy about the the history of the school. That scene completely boring. The coloring, everything is so boring. You know what I mean? The coloring is super normal. It's only when she's in the school, like, only when you see the school, is the color, like, really, really vibrant. So
Yeah, yeah. And I love that aesthetic. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah. Beautiful, yeah.
It's real cool.
Yes.
And let's talk about the set design. I mean, the set design in the original, probably top 10 set designs of all time for me. Like, I think
Yeah.
the set design is so gorgeous, so insane.
It's really kind of magical, you know, a little.
Yeah.
It's
Wow, I wonder
before
why.
Harry Potter, but a little like Hogwartsy. That's
Hogwarts, if Hogwarts was every color. Yeah, it's like that's why people say it kind of reminds them of like Alice in Wonderland a bit, like Alice in Wonderland, Snow White, a lot of these fairy tale movies, like a lot of fairy tale cartoons that came out like in the past, where there was just all types of crazy stuff going on, all types of crazy colors. That's why I kind of described it, the first time I saw it, I kind of described it as like an acid trip. There's so much, and there's not even just the colors, like the patterns too. There's so many, like the set designs, there's so many patterns going on. It's so overloaded with like visuals. So, and it's great. It's amazing.
Yeah, of course. And the visual of it pairs perfectly with the Goblin score, I think.
Oh yeah, the score's great.
That is definitely like one of my favorite scores of all
Yeah.
time. It's just it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
It's great.
Definitely. And there was this I kind of made a note about certain things where like the color red, like every time you'd see the color red, or like the color red was just kind of like kind of overcasting it, like the entire scene. There's like the sense of danger. It's like every time you would see red, there would be like it was like something dangerous was about to happen, or Susie would suspect that, you know, something wasn't right. So there's this kind of use of red, and then it was also the use of the main score, like the main, you know, like the main one. Every time they would play that really intensely, it was like something, you knew something was about to go down. So
That song actually got annoying to me after a while.
Okay.
Like
okay.
it happened too many times.
this is what I'll say. Yeah, there's a thing though. Sometimes like when you play the score too much, like you play that specific score like too many times. I noticed that too, where they were playing it a lot.
I it didn't bother me too much, not nearly as much as like fucking Top Gun.
No, but like that always annoys me.
When you can very specifically hear, yeah.
For me, it depends
Yeah.
on how they use the score. Top Gun, it's just like any moment they just start, you know.
Is it the same score
Yeah.
though? Is it like the same
It's
song?
the same song.
Oh, okay,
Not
okay,
even
okay.
like
It's
a
the same
score.
A different one. It's not even a score, it's just the same song. That's what I'll say about the original, is that like there is a score, definitely, but I think there's one main song that they play a lot.
Over and over and
Over and
over.
over. It's a great score. It's really, really great. But yeah, they do play it a lot. I will say that.
My like of that went down. Like
You just noticed it way too much.
yeah.
So we had a special screening of Suspiria a couple of times, and I went to them.
I saw it there also. I saw it in the end of 2018, around the same time the new Suspiria was coming out. I saw it there. This was before I was working there though. But.
Yeah. This was not the first time I ever watched it, but when I did get a chance to actually watch it in theaters, it completely like changed my experience.
100%.
Because there's a certain effect and a certain feeling that you get when you hear the score blasted over the sound system.
Even the visuals, yeah. Watching it in theaters is so different.
Yeah, so if you ever get a chance to go watch Suspiria in a theater,
Definitely take it.
do it.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I kind of felt like bad, because I was watching it in like 720 on 720p on YouTube, like just really not even in HD. I was like, this should be a crime. I was like watching this, I was like, this should be a crime that I'm not watching this in HD right now.
I've had like a Suspiria 4K Ultra HD in my saved for later cart on Amazon for later.
Oh really? Okay.
For like just for a really long time. It's been there. It's still there. And I like going into this movie, I was like, damn, I should have ordered that like a week ago.
Yeah, to watch it. Yeah, for sure. Talking about cinematography and score, let's talk about the new one. What did you guys? Since you guys both hate the movie, let's go into this. Let's go. What are your opinions?
One thing that I really loved about one of the few things that I really loved.
About the new one?
Was I loved the Tom York score.
Oh yeah,
I think it's absolutely gorgeous, especially the main waltz, Suspirium. it's really, really gorgeous. So I gotta commend Tom York. But Radiohead, Tom York.
Of course.
You can't really go wrong.
You can't really
there.
go wrong. Yeah, I
cannot,
love the
yeah.
score. One of my favorite scores is the dance sequence when the one that we told Kat to skip. There's a sequence where one of the characters, the main character is dancing and she's manipulating the body of another dancer in another room, and her body gets really contorted. It's a really, really gruesome scene. But the music for that scene is I play that music all the time, like that score all the time, because that score is so good. I just feel bad because like that girl got fucked up. Her body got fucked up. Man, it was really scary to watch. Like when you watch it, I told Kat not to watch it because it's a really gruesome scene. But her body's getting like contorted in all types of ways. Like it's really gruesome.
I saw the little thumbnail as I was skipping past it.
Yeah.
I didn't find the like contorting of her body to be horrific. Maybe just because I've watched contortion and Cirque du Soleil and stuff like that
on the reg,
enough
yeah,
times
on the
to be like,
regular.
I've seen weirder body positions, but what made that scene gross was more like you see the bruising and the hemorrhaging, her like ribs breaking, and then like you see the foam in her mouth at the end, that's what made that scene body horror, less the actual like contorting of the body.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just
Yeah.
her reacting because like she's being, I mean, her body's being possessed, So it's just her reaction. There's a scene where she like, I think she like pees herself, and that scene I was like, oh my god, like
That actually made me start cracking up, and it's like, oh, okay,
Did
they're
you really?
going there.
I thought that
Yeah.
was her. I thought that was. I was like, oh, that's terrible. Like, there's certain moments in this movie, that scene in particular, and then the scene at the very end with Mother Suspirium. There's scene when the whole room turns red. There's scenes where I was just like, I couldn't look at the screen when it was happening. I was like, I can't. I mean, I know what's happening. I'm just like, I can't. Oh, I don't want to watch it. You know what I mean? So it's so great. I love the movie a lot. But let's talk about cinematography, since it's a very obvious thing that the cinematography was like a complete like 180, just the opposite ends cinematography and color wise. What did you guys think about that?
Apart from the cinematography on the dance scenes, which I ranted about,
But the just the coloring in general, because obviously the original coloring is iconic. But like, what did you feel about the original, the remake?
I don't know. I didn't hate it. It was certainly a departure from the original, but I think
sure.
when you add up all the different things that they actively tried to make different from the original, it just came across to me that they were just trying too hard to be different. But in those things that they did to try to be different, they still had things calling back to it, like with the certain camera angles that they did, and whatnot. And that it was just like, okay, make up your mind. Are you going to be a different movie, or are you going to be, more of an homage? And to me, it came across as if they couldn't, decide how to do that, to approach it.
I personally, so Luca Guadagnino, he said in an interview that this was never meant to be, again, like, it's very obvious that he's not trying to remake Suspiria. Like, it's very obvious that he's not trying to recreate, like exactly what Suspiria was. So like the departure from the vibrant colors, whatever, that's the most obvious thing. But he described his remake more as like a companion piece, more as like a sister to the original Suspiria. You know what I mean? Where it's like there's callbacks. Because it is a remake. Like there's no even if you're trying to make something different, if you're remaking something, obviously it's going to be similarities. So to me, I'm just like, obviously he was trying to make something different from something that already exists. And to me, it worked really well. I personally, again, I think I already said this, I personally enjoy the remake more. But I think, in terms of the cinematography, obviously it's completely different. And I'm not going to say that, the cinematography, iconic. Like, in terms of like, if we had to compare the two, obviously the original would win. Because cinematography is so amazing. But I will say the cinematography for the new one, I also really, really loved. In the new one, the coloring is very, very muted. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's dull, but it's very muted. They use a lot of kind of like browns and grays and stuff like that. And you can make that look really ugly. Like, you can have that in a movie and like typically it would look really ugly. But I think there's something that's so like, and shout out to the cinematographer, by the way, in that movie, because he's from Thailand, and so he did the cinematography for Call Me by Your Name, which is also the cinematography for that is amazing also, just completely different. But like you can take something like if you take a color palette that's like gray and brown and just really dull colors and turn it into something that looks really beautiful, like I like props to you, like because the cinematography in the new one looked great even though the colors were very muted.
Yeah, it seems like everything Luca Guadagnino does has a certain aesthetic.
Yeah, 100%.
To
yeah.
it.
And if you watch any of his other movies, like Call Me by Your Name, when you watch that, the cinematography is very like you can tell it's very similar. Like the it's and it kind of I don't know if the new one was shot on film, but it has that feeling of being shot on film. And that's what Call Me by Your Name has the same feeling as well, just something that feels kind of older. And it just looks even even if the color palette is different, I think the cinematography is still very beautiful. For the new one.
And I feel like visually and audio
What? What would you say?
It's orally is the
oral
word.
Orally?
No, not
Orally.
oral. Oral.
Oral.
A-U. Orally.
Okay.
Carl?
Orally.
Orally.
All right.
Orally. Through the sound.
Yes.
With Luca Guadagnino, I feel like he has a certain stylistic approach to that.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of his movies, like he approaches it a lot with style. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with kind of this sweeping type of a score.
Have you guys seen any of his other films?
I
Nope.
have not. I've seen enough like clips and analyses of Call Me by Your Name to I get the point.
And so he's had collaborations. Like he's done, I think, a couple other films, but he has collaborations with Dakota Johnson and Tilda Swinton a lot in the past too. So yeah, there was definitely that. But yeah, I think that's just his style. He has a lot of, I think. The plot in this there's a lot more plot in the second movie, but even still, I think kind of the aesthetics of it kind of eclipses the plot. Even if there is more plot, even the style of it is still the bigger thing. The style, the cinematography, like the way that it looks, the way that it feels, it's bigger than even the plot is. Even if there's more plot in the second one, So. Oh wait, you made a note of this too. You talked about the dubbed stuff in the original.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
voiceovers.
So,
I noted that too.
I love
Italian
that.
cinema. This was notorious for this back in the mid-century, where they filmed without sound and then they dubbed the sound over. So every actor got to speak in their own dialect or whatever, and it didn't matter what they actually sounded like. And that's even something that they mentioned in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Because Rick Dalton, or at least the narrator, says that Rick Dalton hated this style of filmmaking when he goes to make Italian spaghetti westerns. Yeah, so it's definitely, if you're not used to watching spaghetti westerns or Italian cinema in general, whether it's giallo or otherwise, it's definitely going to throw you for a loop, and you do have to get used to it. But I've heard other people kind of describe it as one of the charms of this movie.
I think it is.
And I think I definitely agree to that. I can definitely agree to that analysis, that statement.
I grew up watching spaghetti westerns. So.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Like, I remember when I first watched Suspiria, when I was seeing in theaters, the very first, like, the very first person that talks in the movie, you can very obviously tell that it's dubbed over. Like, some of the other actors, it's not that obvious, but the first actor that talks in the movie, it's super obvious that, like, somebody's dubbed over her voice. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, wait. I had no idea what was happening.
I didn't actually notice until near the end.
Yeah. Some of them are better, but the first girl that talks, I was like, oh, whoa. I was like, what is going on?
The only thing that I think I don't like about the original is how you've got characters that just kind of show up and then they're never mentioned again.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, she's got kind of like a little boyfriend, and I was like, what the fuck? You're just gonna, take him away? I wanted to see that relationship develop.
I didn't.
Was that the bellboy, the guy that brought her suitcases or whatever?
Yeah.
Is that him? Oh, okay.
Cute.
I thought he was trying to hit on the friend because he was like looking at the friend when he was up there.
He was
looking at both of them. I was like, ooh, what's going on?
I think he didn't know where to look.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
acting
How did you guys feel about the acting in the original?
wasn't great, but it did have a charming low quality to it.
Yeah, I'll definitely say the acting in the original is in the remake is much better.
Yes.
But
I don't think the acting is so much bad in the original. I think
just
it's
not good.
stylistic.
it's just not. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just not good. But yeah, no, there's a charm
it's
to
not
it.
good by our standards today.
Yeah, definitely. But there's a charm to it. I think it you know what I mean. If it was amazing acting, I don't think it would be the same movie.
Yeah,
would
yeah,
not.
of course.
I also want to go into this. I know this is kind of. I kind of want to go into more like horror movies, like in the 70s, and compared to horror movies now.
Yeah,
particularly
Cool.
with-
I'll just take a break. I'll be right back.
What? Wait.
I don't watch horror movies.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Well,
I know Kaisa does though.
Yeah. I think we should definitely watch Deep Red. That's another Italian horror movie. We should also do Blow Up. That's another one.
Blow Up
It's
Doll.
it's more of like a mystery for. It's not about a blow up doll, Megan. Get your mind out of the gutter.
I'm no
I was
longer
thinking
interested.
I was thinking of Otto, the blow up doll from Airplane. That's what I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
Megan, cleanse your mind.
I'm so
please.
sorry.
Do not cleanse.
This
Keep
is a
it.
family show.
This is a family show after we've talked about murder and
Yeah,
contortion. Okay, so my thing was I wanted to talk about kind of horror movies in the 70s compared to like now, especially with female characters and female leads in horror films. Because Kat, I know you're a fan of Ready or Not, the
I am,
movie that,
yes.
Yeah, see, there's
Very
some movies,
much.
There's some movies I know that you like. So I just kind of wanted to talk about kind of in terms of like female characters. In the 70s, I feel like okay, so if you kind of compare the main characters in the Suspiria, in the original Suspiria and the new one, you can kind of tell that like the original one, she kind of had more like the character kind of has more aspects of like how female characters were in horror films in the 70s, especially things like Halloween and like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's you kind of have like this like kind of like this innocent, you know, sweet like girl next door type character who's kind of thrown into this situation and they don't really know how to react, and the movie is like, especially with like something like Halloween where like it's like they don't really know how to like react to the situation, so it's just a lot of like screaming and like running away and crying, which was common in movies, like with characters in movies back then.
Well, I don't know that this one was necessarily that.
Yeah.
Because Susie does do her investigative work, and she does kind of step up to the plate a bit.
Yeah.
Not at first because she's being drugged for most of it. But
We've all been there.
Yeah. So I don't think she's a damsel in distress.
No, definitely.
And I disagree about Jamie Lee Curtis being a damsel in distress.
No, I wouldn't say like a damsel. I don't think it's necessarily what I would describe as a damsel in distress, because because like there's of course like the thing of the final girl where like even if like they're the ones that are like perceived as being innocent or whatever, they're always the ones that survive for a reason. So Susie herself, like again, like I don't really see like I don't want to call it damsel because I don't really like calling like characters like that like damsels in distress. But I will say that there's a scene with the friend when the friend's death scene. I could not like handle the friend's death scene, because there's a scene when she like runs into the room, somebody's trying to pick the lock and she's just like sitting there crying, and I was like, girl, like it's not that hard, just put something in front of the door, like you know what I mean?
Or the first thing I thought of was you could just hold that bar down.
Yeah,
they don't have
like,
the leverage to get that open.
That's what I'm saying.
You're good.
Like I was
You
like
win.
literally just push it, just bend it or something. Like it's not that hard, because like the scene, if for people who haven't seen it, there's like there's somebody slips some like a metal like thing through the door and is trying to like open this lock like this, and she's just sitting there crying, and I was like, it's not that hard to stop him. Like it's not really that hard. She's just kind of like crying, and then she has an escape, and she escapes through the window, and then like she jumps out of the window, and then all of a sudden she jumps into like barbed wire, which was super surprising.
Yeah, it's razor wire actually.
Yeah,
and
and I was like, she didn't see
that
that
is
was
one of
there,
my
she just jumped
nightmares
into it.
now.
Yeah.
I had never thought of that as an option.
Yeah, option of death, but it is an option now.
Yeah.
Just jumping into
yeah.
a room of wire.
So that was real razor wire, by the way.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Was she okay?
It was
Yeah,
dull,
she was
though,
fine.
right?
Oh Jesus.
Yes.
But that's not how she died, but still that looked like it hurt.
She was seriously maimed, the character.
Yeah, the character
Not-
was, not the actress.
Yeah,
thankfully.
I think the actress had some minor injuries, but she was fine.
Yeah, it looked really real.
like
but,
yeah, so the blood, they used actual red paint.
yeah, it's
I
very
noticed.
obvious. It's very bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blood is very bright in that movie, but I think
Does not
that's
look
the
like
point.
blood.
It does not look like blood, but that's the point. It looks the blood looks very cool though. So, but yeah, so I would say more like so. That's kind of why I kind of brought it up, because it was more of the friend instead of Susie herself. I would say more of the friend. Like, you know, you have characters like this who it's like they're kind of thrown into a situation where they don't really like, they're kind of just, it's a lot of screaming and crying, which is kind of, I think that's where the term scream queen comes from. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's where it comes
Queen
from.
is Jamie
Like,
Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, but she, like, I watched that movie and it's a lot of screaming. It's a lot of screaming and running in that
Well,
movie.
she has a
for
great
sure.
scream, so
She does have a great scream, but yeah, so like there's a lot of that, and like especially so you kind of see more of that in the original one, where it's like I think that has to do more with like when these type of movies were becoming popular in the 70s, a lot of like kind of slasher movies, because the Suspiria, the first one, is kind of a slasher, especially like the first kill scene. Yeah, so like I think when a lot of slasher movies were kind of becoming a thing, a lot of the protagonists were like female characters, and I think there was this kind of more like a cultural fear maybe of like a woman, like a young woman who was very innocent, kind of very, you know, naive, or like kind of the girl next door, like the one that everybody knew. Even like no matter how good you were, you could still be put in this predicament of being hunted by somebody or being killed. And I think there was a cultural fear of that. I don't really know because it's the 70s. I don't have a lot of background or research on that. And I think over time, like that was maybe something that was scary back then, and over time that kind of idea has shifted, where like you see it in a lot of movies now, particularly, and because you still see a lot of female protagonists in horror movies now. It's just I think that it's much different, especially because like I know Kat, we brought this up, but like something like Ready or Not, or something like Hush, or like The Witch, where it's like you have somebody's hunting you or somebody's trying to kill you or whatever. Like I think the idea of like the female protagonist, it has shifted, because I think a lot of now audiences, like in modern day audiences, are more interested in seeing female characters being hunted. It's not really a fear of that anymore. I think people are more interested in seeing how like female characters will react to that, fighting or whatever. So I think there's more of like a shift in kind of the female protagonist in horror films. I don't know, and you kind of see that, and like I brought this up because like you kind of see that in Suspiria also, where like in the original she's kind of like this innocent girl, and then even at the end of the movie, like even when she kills Mother like the Marcos character, she's still, it's kind of just like her like just being like, oh well, I don't know what's happening, so I'm just gonna stab her and then run away. And then but in the second one, it's kind of like this subversion of subverting expectations, where you think that it's kind of the same character, where it's like she's this very innocent Mennonite from Ohio, just like this very submissive type girl, and then who,
but secretly deep down
she's evil. Yeah, she's actually like she's actually at the end of the movie you realize that she's Mother Suspirium, and she has complete control over all the people that you thought were manipulating her. So like in the movie you think that she's kind of being kind of drawn into this kind of darkness, or drawn into like this evil or whatever, and you're afraid for her because she's like this innocent girl, but then you realize that she is the ultimate, like she's the main witch, she's the ultimate witch, you know what I mean? So I think there's that, the kind of like the change of what we expect female characters to be, like that has kind of influenced the remake. I just kind of wanted to talk about that. I don't know, this is more of a rant than anything, but I just wanted to kind of point that out. If you guys have any comments.
Nope.
I mean, they definitely give Dakota Johnson more I don't want to say liberty, but they give her more power.
Yeah, definitely.
She's a bit more autonomous in this one.
And I think that has to do more with kind of how we as a society kind of view horror movies now, what we want from horror movies. It's less about we don't really want to see women getting chased around and killed. I think there's more of this thing where we'd rather see like a woman, standing up and fighting. But that also has to kind of do with not even just in horror film, but in films in general, the idea of like the strong female character that is really relevant in films now, which is also can be a negative thing too. Like the idea of the strong female character is also a negative thing. So, I know, but that's a discussion for a different time. But there's a lot of cultural things that kind of influence these things too. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, Luca Guadagnino did talk about how he wanted to kind of create it more feministy, but more empowering here, and so you can see those efforts. I don't totally get why making it an almost entirely female cast makes it feminist. I didn't like. I appreciate the effort. Gold star for you, Luca. But I didn't feel empowered because it was all women. It's less about the lack of men. It's more about what the men do that
I think
makes a film feminist.
I don't really think it's.
I mean, not just the men. It's what the women do too.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of factors in making a film feminist. I want to clarify that statement a bit.
I don't really think that he was trying to go for like empowerment. I think it was more, I think the reason I liked it is because when I've always been an advocate for movies with a lot of female characters, just because the thing with like, again, going into like the thing of like the strong woman trope, the strong woman type, especially in movies like action movies, horror movies, usually you only see because like the woman is strong, you only see one woman in like a group of men, you know what I mean? So like I've always kind of been an advocate for more women in any film, just because like the more women that you have, the more you allow them to be their own person. Like you can have women who are strong, you can have women who are weak, you can have women who are this, that, and the other. It's just because that's how women are. Not all women are strong, and that's okay as long as you have an understanding of who they are as a character. So for me, when I watch this movie, I appreciate that he had an almost all female cast. I don't necessarily think that he was trying to make a point of empowerment. I just think there was more of a point of like, a woman can be anything. A woman can be good, a woman can be evil, a woman can be anything in between. They can be innocent, they can be terrible, they can be whatever, you know what I mean? I think that's the point that he was trying to get across in terms of like this. And then in terms of like the age thing too, one of my issues, I don't really think that he was thinking about this. Like, I don't think anybody was really thinking about this, but I've always had kind of issues with older women versus younger women in film. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that in movies before. Mm-hmm. And especially in something like.
In what way are you talking about?
In terms of something like Snow White, where it's like, or like some classic like fairy tales where like the older woman is jealous of like the younger woman, or there's always
or
some
just
kind
generally
of thing.
evil.
Yeah, generally evil.
Yeah.
Older women tend to be generally evil. I think in this movie, kind of, and it's not really an issue that I have with it, but it's something that like kind of draws into that, where it's like the older women in the movies, like a lot of them are kind of evil, you know what I mean? They're taking advantage of these younger kind of innocent girls. And I don't think it's not really an issue, but it's something that I noticed. But again, it's of course like but even then, like all the older women in the movie, they're all different. Like Tilda Swinton's character is not the same as some of the other the older instructors, you know what I mean? So again, I don't really think it has to do with necessarily, like, I don't think he was trying to be like, oh, like female empowerment. I mean, it is a thing that is common, but I think it's you can always tell when a director is trying to be like female empowerment, you know what I mean? And that's really something that I think is really annoying, when somebody is just like, yeah, let me push this like in your face or down your throat or whatever. So to me, I don't think he wasn't trying. It's very obvious that he's not trying to do that. He was just like, let me just have a female cast just because like, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter,
He wasn't as like throat pushy as other people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
When you say it like that, it sounds really weird.
Kat, I was drinking water. Why would you say that while I was drinking water? I almost spit out my water.
It definitely wasn't as forceful as other directors. I think he could have done a few things differently. But I do think he did have a noble effort in there in making the women less damselly and just making the film overall more feminist. Oh, I want Mia Goth's robe. That was one of my notes.
Me too. Oh my god,
That
that
pink
robe that she has.
satin.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that robe. Oh, let's talk about costume. I don't really.
Oh, yeah, costumes.
Yeah, I don't think they have. There's not really like anything crazy going on with either of the movies with the costumes, but there's definitely notable things like you said the Mia Goth's robe when she's walking around the building. Oh my god, I love that robe. I want that robe so bad.
I think there was a lot of attention to detail in the everyday wear.
Yeah.
In the new one.
Yes.
Oh,
and
yeah,
making
yeah.
sure that it's period appropriate, which
I really enjoyed it.
appreciate. I am a stickler for historical accuracy.
Yeah.
You may hear me rant about this in the future, depending on what we watch, but historical accuracy is
Important. But I really did love the outfits a lot in the new one. I will also say this. The new one takes place at the same time the original one does. So like the original one takes place in 1977, yes, and the new one takes place, even though it came out 2018, takes place in 1977, and it's like just a quick thing too, because I know we're talking about costumes, but like the new one kind of has this. I don't know if you guys probably noticed this, the political backdrop, like it was very obvious.
Really?
I think the political backdrop I didn't really care for, because it came across again as trying too hard to put it in this historical space. I don't think it was necessary. It wasn't conducive to the plot. Yeah, sure, it was nice to see little details here and there, but I was like, what's the point in seeing any of this?
I will say there
ahead.
was a good shot where two characters, I can't remember who it was, two characters were talking, and in the background you could see both the wall and a guard tower through the window. Very subtle. Loved it.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, subtle details like that I appreciated more than like the straight shots of like the news coverage.
Yeah, so this is what I'll say. So Luca Guadagnino, he did an interview that I saw this interview that he did, and one of the interview asked him, he was like, why did you want to put like a political backdrop in your movie? And he said it was more for like for terms of tension, just because like in 1977 when these things were happening, this was like, it was very kind of you had all these bombings, you had all this violence and stuff that was happening, in everyday life. And then he wanted that to kind of add to the violence that was happening inside the academy. It's like, it's just another thing of like added tension. And like I think I said this before, like if you watch a movie, anything that a director puts in, he's going to put in for a purpose. Like I don't like, especially something that as huge as like a political like backdrop, like as relevant, like there's they bring it up a lot in the movie, and it's something that's supposed to like it's just like an added thing of tension, just like there's all this violence that's happening outside and it's also influencing all the violence that's happening inside the academy as well. So it's just like another added thing, you know what I mean? So that's like that's the reason that he put it in the movie, which I remember watching and being like, I didn't really know like why. But like I get like when he said that though, I was like, oh, I really get that, because it would have been weird if like all this stuff was happening, because like but it's different from the original, because like in the original all the stuff happens only in the academy, but when you watch the new one, like it's happening everywhere, like in the academy, outside of the academy, because there's like scenes where like there'll be bombings like right next to the academy, where they'll look out the window and be like, oh my god, there was another like bombing. And like one of the main characters was like, she was part of one of the organizations, RAF or whatever, I think.
Yeah,
She
the
was, like,
Bader
part of.
Meinhof.
Yeah, that was Chloe Grace Moretz.
Chloe Grace Moretz's character, yeah. So she's, she was involved with these things as well. So I think there was definitely that, and I think, I don't know. So I think that's specifically why he put that in. And like when you're making a movie in Germany in 1977, you can't. It's just something that maybe you can't really ignore, So
Yeah, I don't know if you could so much ignore it, but I think he put it a little too much on the forefront.
Too prominent.
I guess, yeah, that is true. Yeah. Like where you watch it and you're just like, I don't really understand like what, how this is necessarily important to the plot, but I get why he did it. Yeah. But that's why, yeah, if you guys were wondering. But we were talking about costumes.
Yeah, let's
go back to the
Megan.
costumes. Sorry.
Get back on topic.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, the costumes were great. I really loved the costumes and the dance sequence, but they were similar to the video that you sent.
Yes. They were essentially the same, except they covered the nipples.
Yeah.
Which, by the way,
Yeah.
if you do go watch the original video, you will see tits.
Yes. We're talking
I
about
will
the
now
original.
watch that.
We were watching. You didn't watch it yet? She sent it.
I said,
No, I was watching the movie. I just wanted to stop watching the movie, honestly.
No. You guys are making it sound so awful. I love the new movie. I texted you guys. I remember texting you guys at the end of the movie and being like, I'm so sorry if you hate this movie, but I fucking love this movie so much.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't
Anyways.
like it.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, that's the point. It's polarizing, so that's fine. Yeah. Sorry, but we're talking about costumes. Again. Yeah, the video that you sent, was that like the original dance, or was that?
Yes, that is the original dance choreographed by Damien Jallet, who's a French choreographer. It was a performance of it, and he basically just took that choreography and adapted it for the film.
I mean, that was great, and the costumes were really great, very period accurate. I really loved even the original ones. I think just because 70s clothing looks really beautiful anyways.
The thing I appreciated about the like 70s costumes here is they actually made them kind of like everyday 70s clothing. They didn't do like in Austin Powers
Yeah.
where they make everything over the top. Like people weren't dressing like they were going to the disco every day. That was like their
What?
Friday night or their Saturday night thing.
If you see other Luca Guadagnino's other movies, he does this really well. Like if something that happens, something that takes place in like the 80s, he's very good at kind of keeping his costumes very period accurate.
Shout out to the costume department on this film.
I mean, Luca Guadagnino, all his other movies as well, if they're period, like they're very period accurate, where it's not super over the top.
Costumes in the original, I thought, they were fine. It's pretty easy to do everyday wear for modern movies.
1977, that's when it takes place. So
Yeah.
okay, which movie did you guys think was scarier?
I don't think either of them were scary to
Yeah.
me.
Neither.
Okay, neither. Cat, you missed out like half on half.
I
the
mean,
movie.
it's not scary though. It's just gross and I hate it.
But that's a point. That's part of being scared though, because like
That's not being scared. That's just not liking it.
I
Like,
personally
Being
think
scared
it
of
is.
being uncomfortable are two different things.
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's the same. I personally, because like when I watched Suspiria, like I don't know, just being scared. Like when I watch something like with like jump scares, I'm like I'm like, yeah, I was scared in the moment that it happened, but that's not scary. I think to me,
Yeah.
anything with lasting effect is scary to me. So Suspiria, because there's things that when I watch it, I'm like, I can't look at the screen when that's happening. That to me is scary. Like I saw this around the same time as The Witch, when I saw The Witch, and you guys know this. I don't know if you guys know this, but The Witch is the scariest movie I've personally ever seen. And it affected me in a way that I was like, it made me extremely uncomfortable, and it made me like, after I saw it, like I just could not stop thinking about it, and it was terrible. But Suspiria kind of had a similar effect on me, but like in a way that I can still watch it. But when I was watching it, like especially the ending sequence when she's killing all the other mothers, like the instructors, that scene to me, like there's scenes I just can't. There's like I have to like look away from the screen because it freaks me out. You know what I mean? And that to me is very lasting. And like even the scene at the end, even the contortion scene, like that is something that like that's something that sticks in your mind. You know what I mean? So that to me, that's scary. I think the new one is, there's a lot of elements to it that are very scary, that I think that certain people like would watch it and like that would just really, really stick in their minds. Where the original, I think it's a little more slashery, which just doesn't really stick in my mind much. It just, when you're watching, it's very shocking. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I would say it's shocking, not scary.
I will note that I wasn't scared by The Witch.
Okay, yeah.
I do love that movie, which is maybe a movie we'll talk about one day. But
We'll never talk about that movie because if I think about the movie for too long, it scares me. That's like, but that's the impact of movies. That's how like everybody's opinions about movies are different, and like the things that scare us are different.
I guess I'm one of those people that doesn't really get scared by horror because I recognize that it's not real.
Yeah, definitely. And like there's a lot of horror movies, like I've never had a reaction like that to it, which surprised me because I remember being really excited to watch The Witch, and I've never had a reaction like that to any movie ever. Like I remember watching The Witch and it ended, and it like in my mind I remember being like, I wish I hadn't seen that. You know what I mean? Like it was something just
You
one of those
wish you
things
hadn't seen that?
I wish. Kat, I'm gonna kill you. Um,
Don't kill Kat. We need a technical
I'm sorry, we
director.
do. Yeah, this podcast does not exist. Okay, shout out to Kat. This podcast would not exist without her. We would literally.
You can't just say that and absolve yourself of any
we would be
responsibility.
recording this, and nothing would get. Kaisa and I would be doing this. Nothing would get recorded. Nothing would get filmed. We would just forget to press buttons. Like, honestly, all of this exists because of Kat. Thank you so much, Kat. We love you.
Kat.
That being
Shout out,
said, we're not talking about The Witch. That movie. If I think about that movie for too long, scares the shit out of me. I can't do it. Just like, but that's the only movie I've ever had an super intense reaction to. But that's just how movies are. Like, you have really intense people have really intense reactions to certain things, you know. So neither of you guys thought it was scary. Either the movie was that scary.
No, because I found the new one not scary. It was more gross than scary because of the elements of body horror. But on the note of body horror. I don't typically like movies where body horror is just used for shock value. I think one of the things that with the new one is it uses it well. I think it makes sense with the plot.
Dance, yeah, especially since it's a dance movie, using horror, because again, like, we already talked about this and we already know, like, our feelings about the dance sequences, but they really incorporated horror well with the body movements of the dances. Like, that was incorporated very well.
It's the new one is also really weirdly sexual.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
but they still use it well in the plot. Definitely don't watch this movie if you're a prude.
Oh no!
Definitely don't watch this movie.
Definitely don't watch the Cat.
Yeah. You probably don't even have to watch this movie. You'll survive without it.
This is what I'll say. This movie is the type of movie, if you don't watch a lot of movies, this movie's not going to be for you. If you're not a fan of horror, don't watch this movie. If you're not somebody who's really, like, into movies, don't watch this movie either. Because I watch a lot of movies. I wasn't really surprised by a lot of it. Like, there's a horror elements that I'm just like, ugh. But, like, there's nothing, like, I really love this movie. It's a very slow burn. If you, which is, I already say that, and, like, if you don't like slow burn movies, don't watch this movie. Which is, I think general audiences, I don't think would.
Didn't bother me as much as I thought it would, because it's 2.5 hours. But generally, I don't mind slower movies or longer movies. I think for me, it was more like my complaints about the length were just stuff that was not conducive to the plot, that could have just been cut out. I think the movie could have been streamlined more, but I at the same time. The 2.5 hours didn't feel dreadful necessarily.
I would say for a general audience, this might not be the movie for you because it's a very polarizing movie. And it's one of those movies that, like, either people really liked it a lot or people really hated it. So for a general audience, if you just go see movies every once in a while, I definitely wouldn't say I recommend this. But for somebody who, if you really are into film, definitely highly recommend. And if you're somebody who likes horror, definitely recommend too.
If you like body horror, watch this movie.
But even for me, I don't like body horror usually. But I think because you said this before, I think because they use it so well. I think that's why I was like, okay, that's fine. And it's not using it for just shock value, using it to just be gross. Like, it's using it for a purpose. And I think that's what makes it good, which is because I don't like body horror usually. But I think this movie used it really well. So yeah, if you, like, again, horror fans, I would definitely recommend it. And, like, the original too. The original I would recommend to everybody. Like, the original is something I would recommend to everybody.
That should be mandatory.
Yes. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. I mean, I would say
it's probably worth a watch, but I wouldn't say it's mandatory.
Fine.
I would say if you're a horror fan, definitely watch it. If you love colors, watch it.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you love colors, watch it.
If Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat is your favorite musical, watch it.
Yes. If you love Wizard of Oz, watch it. If you love Alice in Wonderland.
If you have eyes, you should watch it.
If you have eyes,
Technicolor.
if you can see color, watch it. Yeah, definitely. That is fair. That's like if you can see color, definitely watch it. You're like, you know what I mean? It's like a color orgasm is what I would describe it as.
Okay, well, that's maybe a little bit too extreme.
Yeah, that is extreme. I'm sorry. This is a kids show. I'm so sorry.
It sure is.
We are. No. Oh my God. When I put this on YouTube, they were like, "Is this appropriate for children?" I was like, "No." That being said, yeah, watch the original. I would recommend for everybody, but the new one, I would say recommend for certain audiences. Really know what you're getting into. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I would recommend the new one, if I'm being honest with you. If you
It's
want to watch
PG,
it,
I would say.
go.
It's PG for everyone under 30.
All right. Wait, Kaiser, what were you saying? You wouldn't recommend it?
I don't know if I would recommend the new one.
Okay.
If you really want to watch it and you feel compelled to watch it, be my guest.
Watch
But,
the trailer.
I'm not gonna go out and be like, oh, go watch.
Yeah,
the new
you have to watch
Suspiria,
this. Right.
you know?
Definitely
think
watch
it's
the
very-
trailer. That was my mistake.
I would, however, recommend the original.
Watch this trailer. If the trailer intrigues you, watch it. If you're comfortable watching crazy shit like I am, watch it. But if you're just a general audience and it's not really something that's up your alley, maybe not. Yeah, I don't want to, because there's a ton of movies there's a ton of movies that I love that I just would not recommend to people. You know what I mean? So just because I know there's things that people like they watch and they just either won't understand it or they won't appreciate it or they just won't care, and I'm like, that's totally fine too. And I'm like, I don't expect people to really care much. So yeah, there's a ton of movies that I love. Like this movie Suspiria, like I really love it a lot. Definitely wouldn't recommend it for everybody. We're gonna get into this now. What is your rating for this movie, you guys? For both movies?
I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
Which one? The new one?
Yeah, the new one is a 2 out of 5. The original is a 5 out of 5.
Okay, Kat.
I'll go last.
All right. Suspiria, original Suspiria, I would give 4 out of 5, and then the new Suspiria, I would give 4.5 out of 5. All right, Kat's really gonna blow this up now. All right, go.
Original, 3 out of 5. It's average. New one. Do I have to rate it? 'Cause
0.
Can I say 0? Is that
Yeah,
allowed?
you can say. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
then 0.
All right. So again, new one, very polarizing. I don't know. Maybe that'll make people more interested in seeing it, though. You know what I mean? Because I think polarizing movies are so interesting.
Just so they can see what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? I fucking love the new one, but I totally understand people hating it. So,
My favorite
Yeah.
movie is polarizing, so I understand.
Blade Runner.
Wait, what is...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Blade Runner is interesting though, but it's something that grows on. But like even things that are polarizing, things can grow on you. You know what I mean? Or like can in terms of in terms of like a society where it's like you see something and you're like you don't like at the time it comes out people don't appreciate it, but like the more over time people appreciate it more. So who knows? Like it wasn't Blade Runner like that. I don't know.
I mean,
know,
Blade
so-
Runner has had many different versions.
Iterations. Yeah, that is true.
And the only really good one is the final cut. I know that's a controversial take. I'm sorry, everybody. But
We can talk about this. We can talk about this another time. We can do a Blade Runner episode. or
Wait,
something.
well, do you have any movie that you've watched before that maybe you didn't like initially, but you watched it a second time or several times afterwards, and
yes.
it grew on you?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Do we
I
have
don't
any
think so.
examples?
There's one. I mean, I don't want to say I hate it. There's movies. I think most movies that I've loved. There's movies that I watched the first time and I'm like, oh yeah, it was fine, and then I will rewatch it and I go, oh my god, like this is amazing. Like this is way more than I ever thought it was gonna be. I know we're gonna talk about this movie later on. We're gonna do an episode for this. We talked about this yesterday. Arrival, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Well, the first time I saw that, I was like, I don't really know if I liked it. I had to watch that movie 3 times to be like, oh my god, like this movie, like literally one of my favorite movies of all time. And then there's another one that's also very polarizing, that I know a lot of people hate this movie, Vox Lux with Natalie Portman.
I haven't watched it.
That is a movie, I don't know if you guys, that's a very polarizing movie too. The first time I saw that, I was like, oh, interesting. I don't really know if I liked it or not. I had to watch that movie. I watched that movie like 3 times in a row, and then I was like, "Oh my god!" Like it, like literally changed my perspective of like, I don't know, just like it was like I don't know. I want to call it like life changing, but like it was incredible. Like watching it like multiple times afterwards. That was a movie also that I was really like, "Oh my god!"
I just remembered.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just remembered that I do have one.
Yes.
Oh.
Jupiter Ascending.
Oh, that's okay. That's a movie that a lot of people either hate it or love it. So yeah.
I didn't like it my first time through. Second time I did.
But I don't really think I have movies that I hate and then I rewatch it again and I love. Because if I hate something, it's usually for a reason. Like either editing or like something very specific. And if I hate it, then I hate it. Like, but there's a ton of movies that I watch and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like Moonlight, again, there's like movies that like Moonlight was a movie that I saw that the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, because a lot of people had been hyping it, and I saw it and I was like, oh, it was all right. Moonlight's one of those movies, multiple rewatches. I had to watch it, and like every time I watch it now, I cry. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that like you sometimes you really have to watch things multiple times to really know if you like it or not. So. But if you hate something, you hate it. It's like there's certain things. Like for me, if I hate something, I know I'm gonna hate it. But for me, most of the times, if I see something, I'm not super impacted by it, or I was just like, oh, that was all right, that was good. Sometimes if I watch it again, I'm like, man, that was amazing. You know, so
Yeah, sometimes it's a movie where you watch it and you have to go away from it and you have to think about it and you have to let things kind of settle in your brain, and then you might notice something and it's like, oh, that was okay, but then later you're like, wait, that was actually really clever. Um, One movie, which is actually going to be our episode next week, Amelie. I was not crazy about the first time I watched it. I didn't hate it. I thought it was like, okay, okay, it's another, romantic kind of movie. But then, as I watched it again and again and thought about it and it sat with me, I grew to really enjoy it.
yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because Amelie seems like the movie that'd be right up your alley. Like, it seems like the type of movie that, like, I would imagine you saw it like, when I imagined, like, you saw it for the first time, like, I thought you would have loved it immediately. But that's interesting that you say that, because, like, that's the type of movie that seems like it would be up your alley.
Yeah, and I do very much enjoy it, and it is, I guess, up my alley. But the first time I watched it, it was not. It was like kind of like on the corner of my alley and like another street.
The corner.
Deciding whether it wanted to turn down the alley or not.
Right. Interesting. All right.
There could be a murderer in the alley.
It was one of the pins on the side.
That was Suspiria versus Suspiria. This was a much more interesting conversation than last week's was.
Sure was.
I don't know if we mentioned this in our pilot episode, but we kind of have a format going where we're going from a single movie to a double feature and kind of alternating week to week. And you'll notice that over time, obviously.
Yeah. And then there's going to be we're doing some months. I don't want to spoil. I don't want to like kind of talk ahead or whatever, but like we have certain months where we're going to do special things. So keep an eye out for, I think September, and then October, obviously Halloween movies, Christmas movies, things like that. So like we're going to do certain months, we're going to have certain topics, but for the most part our format right now is single movies and then double movies, and we pretty much have a lineup until the end of the year, so we'll see what happens.
It is subject to change, obviously.
Yes, for sure.
But,
yes, no promises.
No promises.
Yeah.
And we're gonna try to do different types of genres too. So last week we did a comedy. This week we did kind of a horror thing, like remakes and stuff. We're gonna try to do more of that. So like if we're doing double features, we're gonna try to do a theme also. So, but we're gonna try to do a bunch of different genres and different time periods. And we should do like maybe foreign films and stuff. But who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely do some foreign films. Next week we've got a foreign.
Next week is a foreign film. Yeah. So next week we are doing Amelie, the French movie. I think it came out in 2001. I think a lot of people have seen this movie. Very
cute.
Kind of very popular.
If you
very
haven't
popular.
seen the movie, you've heard the story.
You haven't seen the movie, you have to watch. Okay, Amelie's the type of, we'll say this right now, Amelie's the type of movie everybody has to see it. It's a very charming, very sweet, complete opposite of both the movies we just talked about.
I think it'll be a nice
sweet
palate cleanser.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Amelie's the type of movie after you watch Suspiria, you're like, I want something nice, and then you watch Amelie. That's the type of movie it is. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure a lot of people have. Definitely watch it. It'll be fun. I love Amelie. Have you guys both seen it?
Yes.
I have.
Okay, great. So it'll be a fun talk.
You can find us on all our social medias at Rotting Eyes Pod across the board.
Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Mm-hmm. Our pages are all running now.
We're also on YouTube, so you can subscribe to us there, turn on your notifications.
And we are also on Podbean if you just want to listen to us on an audio streaming. So it's rottingeyespod.podbean.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so where do you want to do Kaisa, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram and what's the
Letterboxd.
Letterboxd.
Yeah.
On both of those sites, I am at not Kaisa, and then on Twitter, I am Kaisa_Kaisa_.
Okay, Kat, what about you?
I am on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Mastodon. All the links will be somewhere. Because I don't feel like spelling it all out.
Yeah, it's a long handle. For me, follow me on Instagram, but my in your I mean, if you look hard enough, you'll find it. But my Twitter and my Letterbox, I use Letterbox. I think out of the three of us, I'm the one that uses Letterbox like all the time. So I'm very active on Letterbox. And it's Megan Cinema. Should be under here. But yeah, follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Letterbox and Instagram if you find me. Yeah. So that is it. Is that our outro?
That's it.
That's it. All right.
We're done.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Well, goodbye.
Bye.
Have a nice day. This is super.